PJ has essentially kind of been part of the James Harden experience from Houston to Philly and now to the Clippers. Why are you laughing so hard, Fred?
I'm just thinking of the double entendre. Go on.
Okay. I will continue.
I'm 5 years old.
PJ's view on the Clippers was very candid. That's why he's always a go-to interview for me. And the line that he dropped that certainly stuck in my head in terms of candor was there's not enough basketballs on the planet for this team. And that's just the truth. Now, that being said, I'm going to go silver lining mode. They smoked the Kings, dominate them. It was an impressive performance. James Harden, who, by the way, our esteemed Clippers beat writer Law Murray had informed me that going into last night, James had hit 2 shots in a fourth quarter in his entire time with the Clippers, which is remarkable. I don't know what he did in the fourth last night, but it didn't matter because they were up so big. More importantly, in the first quarter, he had 17 points. He was aggressive. He took 5 threes, hit 4 of them. The game before when they had a disastrous loss to Denver without, without Joker, without Jamal Murray, without Aaron Gordon, the Clippers had taken 23s as a team. Ty Lue was upset about that. So then you've got James. I think it was probably a good thing where it kind of woke him up and made him feel comfortable about going out and being James Harden in the first quarter. The other silver lining. So James finds his way offensively a little bit. We'll see if that continues. Being part of a Kawhi Leonard post-game media mix, one thing jumped out at me. He just looks leaner than in years past, which I think, considering his health history, is a good thing. He's always been an incredibly strong dude. I think he's dropped some LBs, and as far as that right knee that's been an issue, that's probably a good thing. But Kawhi Leonard has quietly played in every single game this year, and he's averaging 34.1 minutes, second on the team to Paul George, who has also played in all 17 games. So, this team that has taken a lot of well-deserved criticism for being the load management squad is kind of now the poster, team, if you will, of this new season where the league is trying to get everybody to play. I was down on the Clippers when they made the Harden move. I said to you guys, I did not think ultimately it would work, and I'm certainly not flipping that and saying they're going to win the title. But you can see where they are getting better. Before the Denver game, they had won 4 of 5, I believe.
I did watch that Denver game, so maybe that's coloring my, current opinion on them. And I'm about to literally be at their next 2 games, so we'll see. But man, that Denver game was about as bad a loss I've seen from any team this season. I just watched Reggie Jackson and DeAndre Jordan just pick them apart from a pick and roll perspective. Harden's defense was terrible in that game, and it just was such a bad loss that I need to see a little bit more.
The defense is really good. There's not enough balls on the planet is quite a quote.
Yeah.
That's quite a quote. It's well said.
Also, well, the other part of the conversation that he admitted was self-serving is a little strong, but we talked about the fact that when you have 4 stars, I told PJ, I said, I recently saw Austin Rivers, former Clipper, former, NBA journeyman who's now doing media stuff. He was on SportsCenter analyzing the Clippers. And the point that Austin made was that when you've got 4 stars, he said, no disrespect to those guys, but stars are not known for setting hard screens, diving for loose balls, doing all the grimy stuff, winning 50-50 balls that you need to have on a winning team. And, he essentially was describing, I thought, himself a bit, and even to a greater degree, PJ Tucker. Well, PJ I don't think he played at all last night. He's not getting minutes. So they have a lot to work through. I don't know if it's lip service, but tried to press Ty Lue on this a little bit, to Harden's credit to this point. And I think I'll learn more tonight. But he came in with the messaging being that he's there to win a championship and to be selfless, and he's not worried about his numbers. Now, the skeptics and cynics of James Harden, which are many within the league, I'm not talking media, within the league, had pointed to the fact that, if you talk about that Rockets subplot from the summer when Houston supposedly, and I've heard this independent from the reports, supposedly had been given the indication that James Harden wanted to come back to Houston in order to be James Harden, which is to say lead the league in scoring. That was a turnoff for them. So the idea was, why would you believe that he's willing to sacrifice with the Clippers if that's where his head is at? And so far, he's not raising the stink, and he is sacrificing in a massive, massive way. I mean, he is at, let me find it here. It's way down the list. He is at 9.8 shots a game in his 12 Clippers games. And Paul George for the season is doubling that at 18. He's trying. It's not working on a lot of nights, but I do think in terms of his spirit, he's approaching it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between not necessarily taking over and being unselfish. Like I find he's taking some more catch and shoots. That's a good thing. He's taking about 3 catch and shoot threes a game right now. He's shooting 36% on them, and that is a lot more than it was before. I think it was at 1.8 last year with Philly. But you still want to see that kind of stuff come up. Like, they're still learning how to play together. And one thing that I have learned while covering the NBA is that decision making on an NBA court, we a lot of time think it has to do with intelligence, but sometimes it just has to do with, or maybe even personality, but sometimes it just has to do with habits. And you build up all these habits year after year after year after year, and you might have the right intentions, but it's hard to get out of those habits. And I think Harden is still learning how to play with that kind of stuff. But you know what? If we're going to be Clippers optimists, I think they're really good defensively. I think Zubats is good in the middle, and you still have PG and Kawhi playing fantastic defense on the wings. Like, they, even with like Harden at the top and them getting diced up by DeAndre Jordan and him having his best game in a million years, like they are a good defensive team, and they have a wonderful defensive win tandem when they're healthy. And that's going to bode well for them. But like, I'm not putting them above any of the top teams in the West right now.
I hear you on all that. It was interesting when Paul George was asked post game about the integration of James. He actually focused on the defense, not James's defense, the team defense, and just said, for us, it's going to be on that end. So I agree with that aspect of it. I also, Ty Lue made the point that to me is something that historically is really interesting to monitor. Is he cited a couple super teams from the past and made the distinction that if you talk about the Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen Celtics, or the Heatles in Miami, or the LeBron, D Wade, Chris Bosh Cavs, I just put Wade on the Cavs. Apologies. But those Cavs teams that you had wings and a big. You had Kevin Love, you had Kevin Garnett, you had Chris Bosh, and that you talk about not enough basketballs on the planet. The big was typically the guy who was sacrificing. Now in Boston, some of that was Ray Allen, but this team, you're talking about, if you go ahead and make sure you include Russell Westbrook, because he was playing well for the Clippers before James came to town, you got 4 guards, and that idea and that roster construction, that's a different kind of sacrifice where even if your attitudes are right, in terms of the functionality of the team, it's a different formula than some of these other super teams we've seen.
Yeah. And Russ has struggled off the bench.
He's not really struggled.
He's had a couple of nice moments, but he has really not been the same coming off the bench. And again, like, it's just, sometimes it's a habits thing. Sometimes it's a comfort thing.
I think Ty Lue is going to be
was putting up like it. I don't think Russ was doing anything other than being willing to go to the bench. I mean, I was told that he offered it up over the summer, that he said that he would be down to do it, that he and Ty Lue had the conversation if there's a Harden trade or if there's a Lillard trade. Russ said, yeah, I'll go to the bench if that happens. And so that was like already figured out when the Harden trade was made. So I don't think, and Ty Lue came out and said, like, he approached Lue about going to the bench. So I think it's just like, it's not like he's never come off the bench. He did it with the Lakers, but I don't think he was comfortable there either. And, it's a habits thing. And I don't know. I don't think this team is is better than Denver. I don't think it's better than Phoenix. I don't think it's better than Oklahoma City.
I just don't know what they are.
go
And
down the
actually,
list.
I'm kind of excited to see how they look in March. That's it. But I also think, lastly, on this front, that Ty Lue is he's gonna make his money this year, which is to say, like, you know, when it comes to not playing a proud veteran like PJ Tucker, and Kobe Brown got the minutes last night, and Ty made it really clear that Kobe's going to get a lot of minutes going forward. Dealing with Russ, where it's one thing to say I'm willing to come off the bench, it's another one. You know, you're playing 19 minutes last night, fewer than that, I think, the game before. These are, you know, Ty's making tough decisions. I actually asked him about, like, is there any connective tissue between his Ty's Team USA experience in the summer, where you'd certainly learn how to use a roster that has, you know, maybe too much talent. That's kind of a national team dilemma every single time out, you know, and trying to figure these Clippers out. And he did talk about how you learn stuff about managing egos and personalities. But it's obviously very different. So they're just an interesting team, and they're not going to be, I don't think, the kind of train wreck that we forget about in January, February. We're going to be, you know, kind of analyzing them all the way through